In a world that never stops talking, silence feels almost illegal. Every meeting, every negotiation, every argument, every social platform rewards the fastest reaction, the quickest opinion, the loudest voice. We've been conditioned to believe that dominance belongs to the person who speaks first and speaks most. But something strange happens in high-pressure environments. When tension rises, when emotions spike, when millions are on the line, when panic spreads across a room, the loudest person is rarely the one in control. It's usually the quiet one, the person who pauses before answering, the person who watches instead of reacts, the person who lets silence stretch just long enough to make everyone uncomfortable. And while everyone else scrambles to fill the void, they gather information. Because silence is not empty. Silence is data. Picture a negotiation room at midnight. Two companies are about to finalize a merger worth billions. Lawyers are exhausted. Executives are stressed. Voices are getting sharper. One side suddenly makes a brutal demand. The room freezes. Most people react instantly under pressure. They defend themselves. They explain. They argue. Their brain interprets silence as danger, so they rush to escape it. But one man at the end of the table says nothing. 5 seconds pass, then 10. And suddenly the entire energy of the room changes. People begin talking just to relieve the tension. Someone reveals too much. Another starts backtracking. One executive nervously justifies the demand they made moments earlier. The silent man hasn't spoken a single word, yet somehow he's now controlling the room. This is not charisma, it's not luck, and it's definitely not passivity. It's neuroscience. Because deep inside the human brain, silence triggers ancient survival mechanisms. Thousands of years ago, silence in a hostile environment could mean danger, a predator hiding nearby, a tribe preparing an attack. Uncertainty itself became threatening. That programming never disappeared. Today, awkward silence activates stress responses almost instantly. The amygdala, the brain's alarm system, begins pushing us toward reaction. Speak. Explain. Defend yourself. Remove the tension. Most people obey that impulse automatically. But high performers do something radically different. They pause long enough for another part of the brain to take control. The prefrontal cortex. This is the area responsible for long-term planning, emotional regulation, strategic thinking, and impulse control. It's the difference between reacting emotionally and responding intelligently. And here's what's fascinating. The deliberate pause physically changes which part of your brain is driving your behavior. When someone insults you and you immediately snap back, the amygdala is in control. When someone pressures you and you remain calm for 5 seconds before speaking, the prefrontal cortex regains authority. That tiny pause can completely alter the outcome of a conversation, which means silence isn't just communication, it's neurological warfare. The strange part is that society often mislabels quiet people as weak, passive, or socially inferior. But under pressure, many quiet individuals possess a hidden cognitive advantage. They process internally. While reactive personalities externalize every thought in real time, strategic thinkers hold information inside longer. That delay creates space for analysis. And analysis changes everything. Imagine two chess players. One moves instantly every turn. The other studies the board quietly before touching a piece. Who would you trust in a championship match? High-pressure environments reward those who can tolerate uncertainty without collapsing emotionally. The louder someone becomes under stress, the more likely they are losing control internally. Quiet people often appear calm because their brains are processing deeper layers of information before responding. And neuroscience supports this. Research on introverted and reflective thinking styles has shown increased activity in pathways associated with internal processing and long-term evaluation. Instead of seeking immediate stimulation, quieter minds often allocate more resources toward pattern recognition and prediction. In practical terms, this means they are often simulating outcomes while others are still reacting emotionally. That's why elite negotiators rarely rush. They know the person who talks first often gives away leverage. The person who becomes uncomfortable first usually loses, and silence creates discomfort faster than almost anything else. Think about an argument you've had where someone suddenly stopped responding. Not angrily, not dramatically, just complete stillness. What happened inside your mind? You probably started filling the silence yourself. Maybe you explained more than necessary. Maybe you revealed insecurity. Maybe you became anxious about what they were thinking. Humans are deeply uncomfortable with uncertainty, so we instinctively expose ourselves to escape it. Strategic silence turns that instinct into a weapon, because when you stay composed in silence, you force the other person to confront their own nervous system. Most cannot handle it. There's a reason interrogators use pauses. There's a reason elite interviewers stay quiet after difficult questions. There's a reason experienced negotiators never interrupt emotional outbursts. Silence invites revelation, and revelation creates power. But here's the important distinction. Strategic silence is not emotional withdrawal, it's controlled presence. A weak silence avoids confrontation. A powerful silence absorbs information. There's a massive difference. One comes from fear, the other comes from discipline, and discipline is trainable. This is where neuroplasticity enters the story. The brain constantly rewires itself based on repeated behavior. Every time you resist the urge to react impulsively, you strengthen neural pathways associated with emotional regulation. In simple terms, every deliberate pause trains your brain to remain calmer under future pressure. At first, silence feels unbearable. You feel awkward, you feel exposed, you feel weak, but eventually something changes. You begin realizing the discomfort was never in the silence itself. It was in your dependence on immediate validation and control. The moment you stop needing to instantly defend yourself, explain yourself, or prove yourself, your entire psychological posture shifts. Now people feel your presence before you even speak, because restraint communicates confidence. Think about the most dangerous person in a chaotic room. It's usually not the loudest one. It's the calm one, the one whose breathing never changes. The one observing everything, the one who speaks less, but whose words land harder. That's because silence increases perceived value. Economics applies to communication too. When words become scarce, they gain weight. Someone who talks endlessly dilutes their authority. Their brain spills thoughts faster than it can refine them. But someone who speaks selectively creates anticipation. People listen differently. Every sentence feels intentional. This is why some leaders can say 10 words and completely dominate a room. Not because of volume, because of precision. Modern culture trains people to confuse visibility with influence. Social media rewards constant output. Meetings reward constant participation. Everyone feels pressure to perform intelligence publicly in real time, but real strategic thinking often happens quietly, internally, away from noise. And ironically, high-pressure environments punish impulsive communication more severely than ever before. One emotional reaction can destroy a negotiation. One reckless statement can collapse trust. One uncontrolled outburst can expose weakness. Calm analysis has become more valuable than aggression. That's why many elite operators, negotiators, intelligence professionals, surgeons, military leaders, crisis managers, develop an almost unnatural relationship with silence. Under stress, they slow down, not because they lack urgency, because slowing down preserves accuracy. When pressure rises, the primitive brain wants speed. But speed often sacrifices intelligence for emotional relief. Strategic silence interrupts that cycle. It creates a gap between stimulus and response. And inside that gap lives power. Viktor Frankl once wrote that between stimulus and response there is a space, and in that space lies our freedom and growth. Most people never use that space. They surrender it instantly, but high-level performers protect it fiercely because they understand something most people don't. The first emotion you feel in a stressful moment is rarely your wisest response, and the person who controls their emotional timing often controls the outcome itself. There's also another hidden advantage to silence. It sharpens observation. When you stop obsessing over what you're about to say next, your brain suddenly notices things most people miss. Micro-expressions, tone changes, breathing patterns, contradictions, emotional leakage. Deep listeners gather intelligence continuously while reactive speakers are busy performing. That's why quiet people are often underestimated at first. People mistake observation for weakness until it's too late. History is filled with examples of leaders who weaponized stillness, not through intimidation alone, but through psychological gravity. Their composure created emotional imbalance in everyone around them, and composure is contagious. In moments of panic, humans unconsciously search for emotional anchors. The calmest nervous system in the room often becomes the psychological reference point for everyone else. This means your silence doesn't only affect you, it affects the entire environment. Your stillness can lower tension, or increase it. Your pause can de-escalate conflict, or pressure someone into revealing themselves. Silence shapes emotional reality, which is why mastering it changes every area of life: relationships, business, leadership, conflict, parenting, negotiation, even personal identity, because eventually you stop fearing silence altogether. And when silence no longer threatens you, manipulation becomes far less effective. People can no longer rush you emotionally. Pressure tactics stop working. Provocation loses power. You become difficult to control because your reactions are no longer automatic. That's real dominance. Not aggression, not intimidation, not volume, self-control. And one of the simplest ways to begin developing it is through a rule used by elite negotiators around the world: the 5-second pause. When confronted with pressure, accusations, demands, or emotional tension, wait 5 seconds before responding. Not theatrically, not awkwardly, calmly. Breathe once. Observe, think. At first, it will feel unnatural, but over time, something incredible happens. Your brain begins rewiring itself around deliberate response instead of emotional reflex. You stop speaking to release tension. You start speaking with intention. And people notice, because in a world addicted to noise, silence has become rare, and rare things carry value. The irony is that quiet people were never truly weak. Many were simply processing deeper than everyone else. While others chased attention, they cultivated awareness. While others reacted emotionally, they built internal control. While others filled every second with noise, they learned how to think clearly under pressure. And in high-stakes environments, clarity beats chaos almost every time. So the next time a room becomes tense, the next time someone pressures you to react, the next time silence feels uncomfortable, don't rush to fill it. Stay there for a moment, because that silence might be the exact place where your power begins.